Welcome to the fourth turning. This is War and Pandemic. It is Wednesday, 17 June, year of our Lord 2020. You're here in the war room, live from our nation's capital. Jack Maxey, Greg Manns, Raheem Kassam. A lot going on. Press conference. Is the press conference over, Greg? Are they still going on? Mitch McConnell.
Still going.
Mitch McConnell and team up talking about the legislation that's going to happen on police reform. We're going to get into all that. John Frederick's Radio Network, 103.9, 99.1. Also America's Voice, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution. And yes, they will be there in Tulsa on Saturday. And Newsmax TV and 70 million homes. Also in Mandarin later in the day. G News, G Media, and ISIS throughout the world. Biggest global audience for any show. And we pride ourselves in that. In fact, we're going to be going from the borders of India later in the show, in this beginning of the conflict between India and China, as this global war starts to spread from the streets of Hong Kong to Capitol Hill. But this is a fourth turning. And in a fourth turning, remember, the key is to separate the signal from the noise and also to be able to get your bearings. A still point in a turning world will give you everything you need. And that's what the show is about. I want to go to folks that are kind of losing it or getting out there. And traditionally, two guys have kept their cool on television, relatively, right? Different political persuasions. One guy's kind of a former Republican, a former conservative. But Raheem, let's play this. And I think it sets the stage for the first part of the show. Bishop Shine's going to be joining us. Dave Ramaswamy, Jay Kansara, all here during the show to talk, and maybe a couple other surprise guests.
Yeah, let's play Morning Joe from this morning. Let's roll the clip if we have it.
Right? But Mark Zuckerberg is promoting the extremism because Mark Zuckerberg is actually, his site, the Zuckerberg site, has actually set up like ad promotions that actually push people towards extremist sites that kill federal officers. And Mark Zuckerberg becomes a billionaire. How many times over?
Okay, hang on. We're going to get to the content a little later in this hour to talk about the big tech companies, Zero Hedge, the Federalists, what's going on, this. But come on, guys. Should my agent call Joe Scarborough? I mean, Mika's got him watching the War Room Pandemic for the Steve Bannon rants. That's hair on fire right there. And he's banging on the table. He's took my whole shtick.
He does it better as well.
Whoa. Okay, hashtag War and Pandemic, and also in live chat. Want to hear what you guys have to say. Very important, Mike Pompeo. Even as we speak, Pompeo is getting ready in Hickam Field, the famous Hickam Field, or the Army Air Corps at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Hickam Field, they're meeting today with Tiger Yang, right? The foreign minister who actually got on a plane and flew over the day after, a couple of days after Donald Trump in 2016. Donald Trump took a phone call from the president of Taiwan. Tiger Yang was on the plane 2 days later with the ambassador to China to come and read us the Riot Act, that this is just not the way that the territorial integrity and sovereignty of China was not to be questioned. Au contraire, sir, as you've seen in the last couple of years. So it's so much going on all across the Pacific. I want to go now. Do we have breaking news?
Yeah, speaking of so much going on,
Yep.
we're getting a bit of breaking news from the Telegraph at the moment.
Okay.
Boris Johnson in car crash outside Parliament. The Prime Minister has been involved in a car crash outside the British Parliament, said to be leaving in a car at the Palace of Westminster onto Parliament Square when a protester ran out into the road to attack the Prime Minister's convoy. And we're getting more of that as it breaks.
Did I take it the car crash was somebody must have slammed the brakes or slammed a protester?
It looks. I mean, the car's dented and appears to have driven away, and the protester appears to have been detained and arrested. But we don't have much more information yet.
Let's go to. In fact, speaking of this, let's go now to Tucker Carlson and Tucker Carlson's rant from the other night.
We'll roll the clip.
Some bracing news we never expected to report. Black Lives Matter is now more popular than the President of the United States, and not slightly more popular than the President, much more popular. A survey this week by Rasmussen, a right-leaning pollster, found that 62% of likely voters now have a favorable opinion of Black Lives Matter. At the same time, Rasmussen found that Donald Trump's approval rating was 43%. That's almost 20 points lower. And by the way, Trump was not alone. Black Lives Matter is far more popular than Joe Biden is, too. It's more popular than America's religious institutions, all of them. It's more popular than the media, the Congress, and big business. Black Matters is more popular by double digits than both the Democratic and the Republican parties. It's almost as popular as the U.S. military. It's much more popular than the Pope. The numbers are astounding, but the polls are not the only measure of it. Here's a Black Lives Matter rally from over the weekend in New York. Look at that picture. That is an ocean of people. Ask yourself the last time you saw a candidate for office who was able to draw a crowd like that. The media, in their relentlessly fawning coverage, usually describe Black Lives Matter as an activist group or a protest movement. But that's deception by understatement. Black Lives Matter is not a collection of marchers with signs. It's not a conventional political lobby like Planned Parenthood or the NRA. It's not pressuring Congress to pass some narrow new set of laws. Black Lives Matter is far more ambitious than that. It is working to remake the country and then to control it. It's a political party. As of tonight, Black Lives Matter may be the single most powerful political party in the United States. Nobody says that out loud, but politicians understand it perfectly well. If nothing else, they understand power. They can.
Okay. This is the point. We're going to get into all this. By the way, we have another thing of Jefferson, of Thomas Jefferson being taken down outside of Portland High School. This was sent to me by Chinese. And some of the Chinese were actually in tears. But the guy that wrote the Declaration of Independence would be desecrated like this. We're going to get to the point we're going to have a discussion about Washington, D.C. when we're going to rename the district. You know, President Trump's thing was, when does it stop? Or where does it stop? That's what we're going to have. And the best way to, I think, discuss this and deconstruct it is with voices of minority people. They got to be at the forefront. That's one of the reasons we've done conservative clergy of color. We've got Reynard, and we're going to push. And by the way, I guess Roland Martin has come up with a million excuses. He's definitely out of. Roland Martin is not going to do the debate with Reynard, right? Because Reynard comes at you with facts and data and information, right? Not going to do that. But Tucker and even you have this convergence of big tech, the opposition party media, which I said in the early days of the administration. The Democratic Party is not at the forefront of any of this. I mean, they put forward this bill the other day, but he's absolutely correct. Their agenda is much bigger, and it's now you've got corporate America on board with it. Somebody was telling me the other night that these apps are sitting there coming in. You have an app, you have to agree to the basic underlying convictions of Black Lives Matter, or you can't be on the app. They take you off the app. So you've got corporate America, you got big tech. Now, what Joe Scarborough...
We had the Scouts recently as well. So if you want to get to the Eagle Scout now, you have to take this diversity and inclusion badge as well.
Yes. I mean, we're seeing this everywhere, and I think that part of the problem is it's quite frightening. There was something that Donald Trump said the other day, and I rarely think of this guy as a profound thinker, but he said this in his press conference yesterday about the policing bill. He said, Americans know the truth. Without police, there's chaos. Without law, there is anarchy. And without safety, there is catastrophe. Now, here's the important part. We need leaders at every level of government who have the moral clarity to state these obvious facts.
It is one thing to say that, yes, that's fine. And I think that's good. That's positive. But the time for talk is over. There's time for action. Yesterday in the executive order, first off, I'll be blunt. I thought the speech was kind of a mess in that it was a grab bag. You could tell of the two conflicting tensions in the White House. One is this, kind of going to the police reform more to what your opponents want versus what you think is needed. And this is what is so, it's about the Democratic bill. One of the keys, and this is a phrase that you've got to get, qualified immunity. Do we have the David Rifkin? Has David Rifkin got the Wall Street Journal? Did we track that down yet?
Not yet.
Okay, fine. It's named Rifkin, Wall Street Journal, qualified immunity. The war room hitting on all cylinders this morning.
Well, this is, it's the first time I think we've missed Jason Miller in the war room.
No. But this is a complicated topic, and that's why conservative clergy. We helped assist. They launched it. We helped assist in the launch, and every day we're going to have, different voices on here because I think we're going to have Aubrey Shines, and Aubrey Shines is going to address Black Lives Matter as a political party and as a political force. I think that what the president has to do and you see this today with the Republicans. They're all rushing to do this police reform thing. We don't have we don't yet have a bridge over the chasm of the economic disaster that this pandemic counted. We haven't met on the pandemic task force hasn't met in 2 weeks, right? We have the first wave of this, and God bless the vice president, but he's out there yesterday saying there's not going to be a second wave. How do you know that? We were still in the middle of a first wave, and we've plateaued. We've plateaued on the first wave. Every other nation had a downward thing. Our thing was, if you're going to take the 30 days or the 45 days, hammer it and lock it down. You got planes flying. Did anybody know that planes were coming in from Beijing until this came up the other day? When Beijing is now action, action, action. And they've got an article in Politico that says they're all, they got Karl Rove. Hey, it's fine, having different voices. Remember, when is a coalition? I got that. But there was a buried lead in there that they're waiting for August to kind of get in. Hey, that worked in 16. It's not going to work now. In 12, Mitt Romney was defined. The election in 2012 was lost by Romney and the Republicans in April and May. The Wall Street Journal did a huge story after the campaign about how President Obama and his team, that very smart team he had in 8 and 12, but the 12 guys focused on identifying Romney as Richie Rich, right? And once he was identified as Richie Rich, out of touch, clueless about relating to the American people, plus having no populist or nationalist, connection, not even meeting with the Tea Party ever, right? A Tea Party had just delivered the biggest win in 2010, 63 seats in the House. Romney never had a meeting. We had in this very building, had Herman Cain here to represent the Tea Party. Couldn't even get a meeting with the team. Not sure, let's talk to Romney. My point is that game's on right now. This is going to get what's getting won and lost every day is November 3rd. Anybody's under the impression you can wait till August is missing the point here. This is every day. We're going to have Aubrey Shines in here. I want to go back to the Joe Scarborough because big tech has such a massive implication in this. In 16 and in 15, you had, whether it's Cernovich or all these guys, you had a huge social media presence. There's kind of this ragtag army of Trump guys. What is Morning Joe? I know we're going to get into this after Aubrey Shines, but what is Morning Joe actually? What's the rant about?
So the rant is about this Boogaloo group, which is or entity or belief
That's a total nonsense. That's a
is.
nonsense thing brought up by the mainstream media.
And this is the new distraction. You'll hear more and more about.
You have a whole city taken over by Antifa and the John Brown Gun Club and locked down 2 square miles, 6 city blocks. Yet they're making a big deal about the right-wing militias.
Right. So the Boogaloo movement or Boogaloo Boys, they claim is this far-right extremist movement, and they adhere to mostly sort of libertarian militia-style activity. And Joe Scarborough is effectively trying to flip the narrative about Facebook and the social media companies and say, oh, it's not about conservative censorship, it's not about them having monopolistic practices, it's not about Section 230 and all of these things. It's about the Boogaloo Boys. That's what Joe Scarborough's rant effectively this morning is summarized as.
Hashtag War Room Pandemic, at War Room 2020, at War Room Pandemic. We want to go into the live chat in YouTube. We want to hear your voice. Remember, your voice has changed. You got Chinese intelligence, Ministry of State Security in Beijing hanging on your every word. And hey, we like a unfettered comment section, right? So have at it. Hashtag War Room Pandemic. We're going to return with Bishop Aubrey Shines from Tampa, Florida in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Just want to add a note that we're now on AM 820 and FM 92.7 on the John Fredericks Radio Network. John Fredericks, who's the Godzilla of the deplorables?
Godzilla of Truth.
Godzilla of Truth. John, I got to tell you, you're building an amazing radio network in very tough economic times. It's because of the deplorables. But please, 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 no more videos of you pumping weights, okay? Or I'm going to put me pumping weights up there. Just kidding, John. But the network continues to grow. We're very honored to be part of it, as we are AVN and Newsmax, Quo Media, the entire global platform. of the war room. Okay, a concept. We had gain of function. We've had the all the capital markets terms. Now, qualified immunity. Qualified immunity. Write this down in your notebook. Qualified immunity is going to get to be the big fight because it's the fight that matters. We focus on the signal, not the noise. The fight that matters. Greg, what is qualified immunity? Why is it so big? It's in the Democratic bill. It's not in the Republican bill. What is it? Why is it important? And why is this whole thing on the police reform going to come down to this?
Qualified immunity is going to be crucial to this fight on the Hill. Its basic premise is that government officials, in this instance and in most cases, are shielded from being held personally liable, for example, if they use excessive force during their professional commitments.
Right, and executing their office. Right. In this case, it'd be law enforcement officers and actually police commissioners and things like that. That's why it's a big deal, right?
Yep, exactly. And then going back to last week, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said that qualified immunity was a non-starter for the Trump administration.
Okay, we'll see. That's the hill they're going to die on in this regard. We'll have to see about that. I want to bring in now Bishop Aubrey. Yeah,
just before we bring the bishop in,
do we have more breaking news in London?
I just want to play the clip. We have some video from London, from Parliament Square, where the Prime Minister's entourage was stopped by a protester. And it was
or attacked?
It was attacked, but it doesn't look like anything actually went down. The car sped away quite quickly.
The point was to attack it.
Absolutely. And we don't know who the protester was yet, but we wanted to bring the breaking images. Let's play that in the background as I just narrate this over the top. You can see Parliament Square here. That's a regular protester. His name is Steve Bray. He's an anti-Brexit protester. He's always there. And there you can see one of the Prime Minister's own vehicles in his entourage hits the back of his car as his car brakes suddenly as it's attacked by a protester there in Parliament Square.
The point of this, and for our radio audience, the point of this when you see the chaos there, is that now they're not afraid about, that's the Prime Minister. And Parliament Square is a block from 10 Downing or 2 blocks?
Yep,
they know he's pulling out. They know who it is, right?
Yep,
so this is not some random, let's go get the rich guy. This is the Prime Minister, and they're brazen enough to go out and to try to attack it in broad daylight.
Well, the most extraordinary thing to me about this video and this incident is that the police officers who are standing in guard in Parliament Square in the street don't even move when the crash happens and the attack happens. One of them you see in that video just walks slowly around to see what that noise was.
Well, but this is what's going to happen with police forces all around the world. I mean, once they realize that they don't have the backing of the politicians, that they don't have the backing of the leadership like Khan, they're going to slow walk everything, right? We've seen this happen in cities before. We saw this happen in Baltimore.
Exactly. But
over the last 3
I think
years.
you're going to see it worse because you've got now the opposition political party. Bishop Shines, thank you very much for joining us, conservative clergy of color. Amazing start. Everybody's talking about this now, and you guys are at the tip of the spear to really, I think, engage in what should be a national debate. Now, we're believers in democracy. You got to fight these things out at the ballot box, but one thing you got to do is you got to have a frank and sometimes tough discussion. I think that's what's so impressive about your group. We played in the first part the Tucker, I know you saw, and we sent it to you, the Tucker thing from the other night where he said Black Lives Matter at 62% is more popular than anything, including the church, and is now a major political party. What say you? Give us the perspective of Bishop Shines and also the conservative clergy of color. How do you guys go about actually confronting that on an intellectual basis?
Well, first of all, they won't be able to stand against us intellectually because they just don't have history on their side. I had an opportunity to look at the Tucker piece, and here's the sad part about it. When I was viewing it, one of the first thoughts that kind of popped in my mind was when Dr. Martin Luther King said, until the church begin to affect its culture, them gathering together every Sunday is no more than a culture club. And I thought about that, and I've been, of course, pushing that narrative for a very, very long time. Unfortunately, the church has been very silent in this regard. And I think it's sad for a lot of different reasons. We've constantly, Steve, been approaching this. But one of the sad parts about it, and again, this is no excuse, but this is just the reality in which we're in. Voices like conservative clergy of color and other guys and girls that really do this, been on top of this, out in the forefront of this for a very long time, our platforms have been very, very minimal. The reason being is because networks are never going to pick up our voices because we won't echo their narrative. And because we don't echo their narrative, they choose and select. And I think we've all saw very recently some of the NBC and ABC individuals that they are selectively choosing individuals, especially individuals of color, that will reflect what they want them to say. So they're not going to come to guys like me and groups like ours to say anything because, again, we're going to sound a bit too American for them. We're going to sound a bit too historically accurate. And as a result of that, we certainly have a battle, but make no mistake about it, we are well equipped and we can win this battle, Steve. We just need the exposure to do so.
When Black Lives Matter first started, it was very controversial. I think it's 5, 6, 7 years ago, at least this aspect of it, right? And they had some very controversial marches, and they kind of came into favor, but then faded out of favor. But, and I'm just saying this as an observation, they showed the grit and tenacity to continue to organize and to continue to push their message and push their message and push their message. One thing, if you notice, there's a lot of these mainstream Democratic politicians or guys to the left are saying, hey, defund the police is a terrible message. They're not backing off that. They're still going with defund the police. They're still hammering with defund the police. My point is they're very focused. They have a purpose. They're driven. They're like the cells of the Bolsheviks and the cells of the Red Guard, and very focused on an objective. How do you? And they did this at first. They had a platform, and then they were a little bit deplatformed as they got a little too controversial. How do you guys force your way into the conversation? Because nobody's going to sit there and go, hey, I haven't heard from Bishop Shines or I haven't heard from the conservative clergy of color. How do you guys enforce your will onto this situation?
Well, it's easy for us. Again, and if you don't mind me saying this.
Sure.
The moment we have platforms like yours and other platforms, we can challenge that narrative all day because, again, we've been saying this all along. Several years ago, when these guys began to, rear their ugly head in this regard, I began to push back immediately. And I was doing it, by the way, on far left-wing media outlets. I mean, some of the top in the nation that would bring me in, not because they wanted to really hear from me. They thought that they would, have a slam dunk kind of a moment and really never worked out for them. But my presence fighting back, we're able to really have a real dialogue. Well, we begin to expose the Black Lives Matter movement. And my thing always, and it still is, even to that group to this day, think about it this way. Why is it that a black life only matters if a white life kills it? When systemically, if you have an organization that gave you your funding, your start, you have a history, by the way, it's called the Democratic Party. It gave you the slavery, it gave you the Jim Crow laws, it gave you these things. What we're finding out, Steve, is that when we have that conversation with any of their representatives, and I mean representatives as in mainstream media or far left media that's supported by mainstream media, they never win that argument. And then subsequent, what we'll have is we'll have inbox a group of their followers saying, we didn't know this. We didn't know anything about Margaret Sanger. We didn't know about the history of the Democratic Party. So again, we're fighting this Goliath, but make no mistake about it. Our 5 little stones, we will take down that giant. There's no question about it. We don't care how big and how bad they are. They can huff and puff. We'll blow that building down, my friend.
That's what we love you, Bishop Shines.
Forgive me for the theological.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. You got look. Okay, we got about a minute and a half. From what you saw yesterday in the Rose Garden of the president signing this EO, and what you heard from the Republican Party, what would you like to hear? Are you hearing enough law and order, or you think it's fine, or police? Tell me what you think would be the best narrative to push forward on right now.
Honestly, if I could just sit down with my president, as I had the opportunity, as you well know, when I traveled with him across this nation, speaking in those particular venues, I would simply say, Mr. President, please bring guys like me around you. Therefore, when these ridiculous reporters ask you these dumb questions, allow the conservative clergy group, allow groups like us to begin to address, because, again, we will ask those same reporters to question if Black Lives Matter. And by the way, every life matters. Why is it that we're not hearing this with the more abortions that are happening in the Black community? How about the 90+% of murders that are happening by other Blacks? We have an opportunity to ask, and the sad part about it, Steve, is when another American that happens to be white asks that question, they're immediately deemed as a bigot or racist or whatever it is that it is. But we come with a different stick. And trust me when I tell you, they don't want to tangle with us. Historically, academically, they'll never stand and they'll never have the opportunity to have any success. This is what I would say to our president. Please, for God's sake, surround yourself with guys like us. Let us help you fight this. And I guarantee you, prophetically, we will win this battle.
Bishop Shines, you're on fire. Tell people how they get to the website, how they get to your Twitter feed, all of it.
Yeah, so conservativeclergyofcolor.org, or just type in my name, aubreyshines.com. We will link you guys with everything that we're doing. Help us fight this. We really can win it. We're American first, period, before we use any hyphen to define us by our ethnicity.
You're an American patriot, sir, and a very brave individual. Remember, courage is the most important of all the virtues, as Churchill told us, because upon courage, all the other virtues rest. We're going to return in a moment and talk more about courage.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I don't think the times could get any more uncertain than they are now. And that's why if you're an entrepreneur, you need that still point in a turning world. That would be NetSuite by Oracle. Remember, go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, to get the 7 action steps you need to be taking now as an entrepreneur. In these very troubled and uncertain times is when entrepreneurs need to be able to separate out the signal from the noise. Okay, speaking of that, and so there is, you have to understand in the whole movement of the world today, big tech, social media, it's information warfare. We're actually going to have a special. Raheem and I are going to be doing it. I think we're going to try to do it tomorrow with Miles Guo for the Stanford study, but kind of bring the camera back and talk about what really is information war in this global struggle with the Chinese Communist Party, but how it plays out all over. Now we've had this whole aspect now kind of come visit 2 of the sites that and Federalist is a kind of used to be a never Trump site. It's got some good stuff in it, but Zero Hedge, even with the links to the KGB front sites, and they link to some I think on occasion some very dicey sites, I believe is still one of the best sites on the internet as far as news goes. If you want to take complicated financial things, geopolitical, monetary, currency, if you're a Wall Street trader, you're always going to Zero Hedge, because they have every day at least a dozen articles that are in the moment about what's going on, but they have some dicey. They've had, every now and again you get a strategic culture link, which the things that'll be coming up, but they're trying to shut down. They're bound and determined to shut down Zero Hedge. Mm-hmm. First, they banned him for Twitter, right, for 90 days for talking about the stuff that now is proven that the intelligence agencies all the way to Norway are talking about on the pandemic coming from a lab potentially. And now they're cutting off. If you guys out there know, if you have a website, if you don't have the Google aspect of this to monetize the website, to basically go on a computer basis and hook up with the exchanges that have ads that put them up there, right? Your cookies kind of drive it. But it cuts off the auction for revenue flow, right? Because it's very tough to have direct sales today in these kind of sites.
Ironically, what they're most upset with these sites is not necessarily the content of the articles. It's the fact that you get these right-wingers or Looney Tunes posting racist comments in the feed afterwards, and that's what they want them to police. So what's interesting is here you have big tech companies.
I could not disagree with you more. Well, that's what they say.
That's what they're
claiming. What they want to do is shut down these sites, and so they go to, since they have a tougher claim on your Section 230 on the content itself, which they want to go off. They go into the comment section and then cherry pick. Particularly if you have an open comment section, you've got now. What you should have in the comment sections is you should have monitors that take certain stuff down. Now, that costs money because you got to pay people to do it.
Well, but interestingly, what they're saying is they're essentially asking them to do what 230 gives them a buy on, to edit the response of people.
Let's go to this, and I want to go back to what Joe Scarborough is insane about, because there's a big problem here with artificial intelligence and all that. As soon as Trump won, Google and these guys had meltdowns. Remember, they had to have therapy sessions, not struggle sessions. They had therapy sessions in for a big group hug, but determined what we need to do to not allow this to happen again.
Right. And we're seeing now what they have determined. So yesterday, the NBC News pops a story that the Federalist website and Zero Hedge were to be demonetized by Google. Now, as Jack Maxey rightly points out, this is basically them arguing that the comment section of these sites, this is their frontline rationale, which, as Steve identifies, is not really the truth behind this, but they say the comment section has stuff in there and that the Federalist is therefore responsible for the comment section, which is completely contradictory to the way that the tech companies defend themselves against Section 230 immunity. They say we're not responsible for user-generated content and therefore you can't come up after us. Everyone's talking about this. You would have seen it last night, if you watched Tucker Carlson, the extended interviews, Tucker Carlson and Sean Davis talking about this there. But what's really interesting to me is the slightly, I like to approach things from a slightly different angle, Steve. The investigation that we did yesterday afternoon about this on the National Pulse was about where the pressure came from to knock the Federalist and Zero Hedge off of Google's monetization system. And it turns out that this NBC reporter who admitted on Twitter, now her name is Adele Momoku Fraser, a British journalist who has recently worked for local papers like the Bristol Post, then went to the Channel 4 News. She actually wrote on Facebook to the organizations that she worked with in London to force Google to take action. She wrote, "Thanks for the collaboration." Now, who was she thanking for the collaboration? The Centre for Countering Digital Hate is a British non-profit and a limited company.
Give me that name again and do it slowly. By the way, hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want you folks to be on this. Give us this again.
The Centre for Countering Digital Hate. So it's a non-profit, a limited company in the United Kingdom that effectively put together for this NBC reporter a list of 10 US websites that they say has racist articles about Black Lives Matter and the protests. And they said that those websites could make a total of millions of dollars through Google ads in the coming months. Now, that's the rationale. The Center for Countering Digital Hate, however, it's run by a guy called Imran Ahmed. Imran Ahmed has popped out of almost nowhere. He's another one of these race relations lobby types who is actually on the British government's countering extremism task force. So he's on Boris Johnson's task force. The task force was...
Well, the task force is supposed to counter the radical jihad, correct? Extremism? Or is extremism on the right?
Yeah, I mean, just like anything, if you look at the makeup of this task force, and I go through it in the article, former police chief Sir Mark Rowley, who oversaw a massive violent crime rise in London, Islamic activist Yasmin Walji, hard-left activist Councillor Simon Blackburn of the Labour Party, Sundar Katwala, who runs an organisation funded by the Open Society Foundations, Mediacom executive Claire McAlpine, and Imran Ahmed, who is a former Labour Party researcher, by the way, and is also on this task force.
Are there
and
any?
Runs the
But are you cherry picking it? Please tell me there's some right-wingers.
That's the whole task force. That's the whole task force. Now, my question is, Theresa May, the former Prime Minister, set up this task force and gave the chairmanship of this task force to a lady called Sarah Khan. She's written a book called The Battle for British Islam. She's known as kind of a moderate Muslim voice in the United Kingdom, but also one of these voices who doesn't have very much credibility within Muslim communities in in the United Kingdom. But what's interesting to me is that while Theresa May set this up, Boris Johnson has allowed this task force to continue, has allowed Imran Ahmed to use his position on the task force to gain credibility, to set up this Centre for Countering Digital Hate, and the Centre for Countering Digital Hate is working with this NBC team in London to try and knock American conservative websites off, demonetize them, ahead of a US election.
This is why sometimes you say, hey, why are you talking about Britain? Because this is a global conflict, ladies and gentlemen. This is a global conflict, okay? Global conflict. And this is a perfect example. Her only mistake that she made as an operative, she's not a news person, she's an operative on the payroll of NBC, right? The only mistake she made is speaking the truth. Thanks for the collaboration, right? And that's what I guess some people jumped her yesterday for saying that. Where do we stand in this whole thing?
Well, just finally on this as well, I want to make clear that this NBC unit in London appears to be quite strange in and of itself. It's called the NBC News Verification Centre. Now, I don't really know what that means if they...
What are they verifying?
Right. And so we're looking into this group right now, but we've already found out from our own investigations this morning that the NBC Verification Centre actually employs a bunch of reporters who are known to be activists or close to hard left activists, including one that worked for Turkish state media, which is, of course, controlled by Islamist President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So we're looking into the NBC News Verification Center and what role they play. But Paul Gosar, Congressman Gosar, is a real hero on this stuff and is a real fighter as the tech censorship goes. He gave us an exclusive comment yesterday where he actually said, quote, "Such foreign interference by a shady UK group has no business in our domestic politics. I will be asking Attorney General Barr to add Google to the list of subpoena recipients for the ongoing investigation into election interference, censorship, and foreign meddling."
So he's stepping up to play. Tell me what he's doing again.
He's actually writing to AG Barr and asking AG Barr to add Google to the list of subpoena recipients for the ongoing investigation into election interference, censorship, and foreign meddling. If you go through this story, the Center for Countering Digital Hate is endorsed by Tel Mama, which is run by a guy called Fiaz Mughal in the UK. Tel Mama actually lost its government funding in 2013 for having falsified hate crime data. It's backed by Hope Not Hate, which has links to Marxist agitators through the Unite Against Fascism group, and the Unite Against Fascism group in the United Kingdom actually had, at one point in time, Michael Adebolajo speaking at one of those rallies. Who's Michael Adebolajo? The Islamic terrorist who beheaded Lee Rigby.
This is almost too. Is Rachel Maddow going to have a special section since she's been all about foreign interference, right? Foreign interference. She had all those great exclusive interviews. Remember with the Lev Parnas exclusives. Not her finest moment as a journalist.
I just have to just a final thing on
but
this.
Why is NBC? Are you going to press Brian Williams and Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and these guys to respond to this?
Yeah, we are, and not just that. There's also a PR operation taking place in the background now. Here in Washington, D.C., again, exclusive information that will be published on the National Pulse later today. Make sure you're following and you've got the notifications and everything turned on. I exclusively obtained late last night a list of recipients of an email by Google's conservative lobbyist in Washington, D.C.
Google's conservative lobbyist? Why do they have a conservative lobbyist? They're a left-wing organization.
All big tech firms, every big company basically has a lobbyist for the left and a lobbyist for the right in Washington, D.C. And they try and pick people off.
You mean a paymaster?
Yeah.
Not a lobbyist, a paymaster.
So Max Pappas, who was previously... I believe, at FreedomWorks, doesn't seem to believe that freedom works anymore.
Wasn't he a Daily Caller years ago?
Probably.
Yeah.
He sent an email around at 6:13 p.m. last night. Subject line, The Federalist. And it's a list of Google talking points. No, we didn't really take the Federalist off. We're working with them for their comment section, etc., etc. He linked to a lot of their tweets.
Didn't the Federalists take their comment section down right away when this happened?
They did.
Hold it. So Google comes out with this to demonetize them. Max Pappas is sending this around. You're saying Federalists dumped their comment section?
Now, Sean Davis last night on the Tucker Carlson show said the comment section will be back, but for now, the Federalist has complied with the Google order and dropped its comment section to maintain monetization.
So that they're correct me if I'm wrong, are they basically implying that their comment section had a problem by doing that?
I think you accept a level of responsibility if you claim that that's correct. Now, if I were these guys, I would have gone back to Google and said, hey, have you ever seen the YouTube comment section? Are you going to demonetize yourselves? But just in the minute we've got left, and I'm not going to get into naming names because we're going to go through this list.
Because you're holding that scoop for the National Pulse. It's a traffic. Yeah. He'll name names in the National Pulse later in the day.
But I'll give you some example of the organizations we're talking about here that are on Max Pappas's list of right-wing people that are clearly open to being lobbied by Google. The American Enterprise Institute, the Cato Foundation, Americans for Tax Reform, the Heritage Foundation, the Niskanen Center, R Street, the Tech Policy Institute, and it goes on and on and on.
If you're a lobbyist, you have to have, in his defense, I'm waiting for the National Pulse investigative piece to come out, because those are our logical guys to go to.
And I've asked Max and I've asked Google if these guys are Google grantees, and we'll find out.
Harold, okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Come back with more in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
In uncertain times, entrepreneurs need every tool they can possibly get. The tool that you need is NetSuite by Oracle. It is that software that will help you understand your capital asset pricing model, your inventory, your projections, your human resources. It will tie it all together for you. Go to NetSuite by Oracle. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, and today get 7 action steps you need to take as an entrepreneur. Remember, in all this uncertainty and all this confusion and all this turmoil, there are opportunities, and entrepreneurs are going to lead us through this. Make sure you're one of those entrepreneurs that do it, and make sure that you've got NetSuite by Oracle. Okay, want to get back to, I just want to clean up the last segment. This part of information warfare in big tech, right, where we started with, hey, these are public utilities. They got to be started treating like that. We got to break up big tech. You know, all of a sudden, towards this part of the Trump administration, we're okay with approving, you know, AT&T and Time Warner being merged, and now the president's ranting on CNN. Well, that you got to think about that earlier on before he let this concentration of power in these big companies. It's too late to argue about it now. But part of the reason we bond with the Bernie guys is big tech has got to be addressed. I want to go back to what Joe Scarborough is saying, his rant on Facebook. He's trying to change the narrative here. The story is the deplatforming of the right in social media and by these big tech platforms through artificial intelligence and other means. Am I not correct, Mr. Raheem Kassam?
Yeah, I think you're correct, but I wouldn't even necessarily see that Joe Scarborough's meltdown. I wouldn't call it a rant. I mean, you're slamming. I've never seen you slam the table, apart from in the breaks, but I've never seen you scream into the mic like that. Okay. But no, he tried. It was sort of a pantomime version of Steve Bannon rant, but I wouldn't necessarily see it as harmful to what we're generally talking about here. Because what he might be doing is trying to distract and say, oh, it's the far right that's the problem, and you know these are the real guys.
Well, that's what he is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
This Boogaloo moment's a joke.
But it still focuses the energy and attention on where we need the energy and attention focused on, which is...
You're saying that's the signal.
Which is the tech firms' dominance, their monopolistic ways of doing things, the fact that there is no feedback mechanism, the fact that there is no transparency, the fact that they can make things up. They can invent things to knock you offline for. By the way, and I'll say this, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The number of times I've been suspended or whatever, that's fine. I can take it. I'm a big boy, and I can go on television and defend myself, and they reinstate my account. But for the ordinary person out there, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in the United Kingdom, wherever you are in the world, or you're a Hong Kong Democratic protester, wherever you are, if you get taken offline and they say, oh, we send you a message, oh, you're not within our community standards, that's a vague reason. There's no rationale. There's no underlying foundation to what they're saying. And therefore, you have no reason. What you might have done incorrectly, you might have done something incorrectly, inadvertently. But you don't know. You can't take measures to rectify that. And you're just censored from there on out. So this is what Joe Scarborough is. Maybe he intends to attack this from the left as well. And if he wants to go after the tech firm's dominance, I'll stand with him.
Do we have the Rachel Maddow clip from last night with Bob Gates? Here's the thing. We've got, and up on the screen, AV and everything, put the Bob Gates, but Bob Gates resurfaced, right? They must have done the interview before the sun was over the yardarm and you can have a drink. So it must have been I think it was pre-recorded, or Exercise of Power is the book. You can see it up on the screen. You can see right here on my Exercise of Power is the book. It's Bob Gates' new book. It talks about Bob Gates as the defense secretary through the Bush administration and state over for Obama. It's American failures, successes, post-war. This is the nonsense that President Trump ran against, and the reason this is about managed decline. It was shocking how ill-informed. If you want to see why America is in the shape it is in national security, Watch Bob Gates' performance last night on Rachel Maddow. And by the way, Rachel Maddow, who normally will give you a tough interview, this was just one softball after the next, okay? Number one, he is a total and complete disaster. The foreign policy, he actually makes a statement. She pulls up on the screen. One of the reasons China and Russia, and we have to take the global responsibility to everything, they don't have any allies. Note to self, Mr. Gates, under your watch, okay, the rise of China to control the Eurasian landmass with their allies, sir, Pakistan, in Iran, I say Turkey, and now also Russia and North Korea. Those powers are in a organized effort to control the Eurasian landmass, and this happened on your watch. Your interview last night was, and I've had a chance to quickly try to go through as much of this book as I can, this thing has to be put forward. What Trump ran against is this kind of nonsense. This, where right now Trump's got, whether it's NATO, the Gulf Emirates, in the South China Sea, up in the Northwest Pacific, an alliance really being built, a real alliance. That's why you have India. We're going to have the second half of this show, Dave Ramaswamy and Jay Kansara talking about China and India, our ally, actually in an armed conflict, I guess armed being crowbars and fists and rocks right now, but 20 guys are dead, and they think there may be more than that, 60 people dead. But Gates is on there last night, and she actually brought up, this is how I know we're getting to him. Guess what they brought up? Voice of America. Mm-hmm. She goes, hey, this Voice of America is now, hey, you're right, Rachel. We beat you to the punch here, okay? We're going to, that whole thing's going to get cleaned out, okay? All the fellow travelers, all the CCP, and the way it's infected, Radio Free Asia and Voice of America, it's all going to get cleaned out. It's going to stand up for liberty and freedom. And Rachel, you should have your production staff listen to the weekend shows we do of voices from China that tell you how Voice of America and Radio Free Asia have let the firewall stand, have let down the people of China who want freedom. And last night to have Gates on there. And by the way, Gates's book should be read to understand the soft, detached understanding of what the world really is like. If you want to know why China's on the ascendant to be a hegemonic power, why they're confronting the United States and the people of freedom in Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, all over the world, and particularly in the rimland of Asia, read Clueless Bob Gates. These are the guys that have been in charge for 30 years. The reason Donald Trump came in there and it's a complete mess, $7 trillion on Gates' watch. He's kind of babbling, yeah, we really know we got to win these wars and maybe we haven't won them and all this stuff. This type of soft thinking through a befuddled a befuddled guy like Bob Gates is exactly why Trump is president of the United States. This has to be hammered home every day. The book couldn't be better as a counterposition to what reality is. Bob Gates, if this is the way you exercise power, then give power back, right? Because all you've done is help destroy, you, sir, have helped destroy the greatest country in the history of the earth. Okay, we're going to come back in a second, going to Beijing in a pandemic.